You talked earlier about the challenge for politicians. This is a communication challenge, but it's also a challenge in terms of delivering change, winning the consent of the citizenry. Do you believe that our politicians are up to it today?
Well, it's difficult for politicians because they're especially nowadays, they're living in the moment. Social media, I think, is really a plague actually on politics, frankly, and it makes it a lot more difficult to conduct it rationally. And this does require a certain deep understanding. And the problem with politics is if you look at the gene pool that's coming into politics today, it's very narrow in its experience. And you really need people with the experience of the world and who are familiar with technology, because it will change everything, and how you harness it for the public good is going to be so important. I mean, you could educate people completely differently today if you use technology sensibly.
Hang on to that thought. Why is the gene pool in British politics so thin? Is it because everybody got sort of killed off in the early part of the century?
No, I think it's because this is happening everywhere, by the way. It's because politics is become a very rough business. I mean, social media makes it very divisive. If you're interested in ideas and policy, you've got to think long and hard before you believe that politics is something for you. Now, politics remains really important because in the end, the big decisions, as you can see with COVID, are taken by politicians. But I mean, this is a whole other debate that we can get into as to what we do about it. But I think the trend over the last 30 years has been to go for younger and younger politicians, less and less world experience, and therefore, even with the best will in the world, if you've not, for example, worked in a business or taken decisions in a business environment, or you haven't got real life experience of doing work in the front line of a public service, your knowledge is bound to be restricted.
It's funny though, you obviously don't conform to that type. You weren't like Harry Truman, who was the haberdasher's son, elected to the Senate he was almost 50 and then became a great president. No,
but what I did do, although you might think, well, being a lawyer is not the same as real world experience.
It's better than being a journalist, Tony.
Well, it's the particular law that I did was very much around industrial law, employment law, business. I learned a huge amount in the 6-7 years that I was a lawyer. I learned a lot about how business thought about things, how companies take decisions. And even then, I have learned since leaving office a vast amount more. I mean, I can't tell you often, I wish I'd known all these things I know now when I was in government.